The world has gained a new nation. The Sudan, for 58 years under the rule of Britain. The Proclamation of Independence is read from the balcony of the House of Representatives in Khartoum, and the new flag is hoisted. Blue for the Nile, yellow for the desert, green for agriculture. A five-man Supreme Commission will act for the time being as head of state. A joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives hears the new republic proclaimed. Premier El Azari thanks Britain and Egypt for giving his country freedom to work out its own destiny.
However, on September 2, 1898, the national Mahdist rule unfortunately came to an end when the Anglo-Egyptian army commanded by the British Lord Kitchener defeated the army of Khalifa Mahdi on the outskirts of the city of Omdurman in the famous Battle of Karari, which showed the bravery of the Sudanese people who fought like lions with swords and daggers, but the technology and the modern weapons of the British army put an end to the battle in a few hours. On that day the Nile River turned red because of the blood of the Mahdist army bodies thrown in it.
This sooner had the colonial condominium rule taken control of the Sudanese people started to resist it fierily everywhere all over the Sudan. Generally the Sudanese resistance was the strongest African resistance after Algeria resistance against France. In fact, many rebellions and uprisings took place, such as the uprising of Abdelgader Wad Haboba in Gezira state in central Sudan in 1908. The rebellion of Sultan Ajabna in the Nuba Mountains in 1911. The movement of Suhaini in Darfur in 1922, besides. The famous White Flag Revolution in Khartoum in 1922 led by Lieutenant Ali Abdulatif, who was originally from the Dinka tribe of South Sudan, who is famous for his trial when the English judge asked him about his name and then asked about his tribe, and he said "I'm Sudanese," and the judge said "I know you are Sudanese, but what is your tribe?" and Ali responded, "My tribe does not matter, I'm Sudanese, we are all Sudanese and we are all fighting against you, so you go out of our country." In addition to those uprisings, there was the political struggle which culminated in the Graduate Congress movement, which was established in 1938 and which was led a group of such patriotic figures such as Ibrahim Ahmed, Mohammed Ahmed Mahjoub, and last but not least Ismail al-Azhari, the first Sudanese Prime Minister of the Sudan. All these resistance movement was faced by murders, torture and deportation until finally Sudan gained independence in 1955 inside the parliament, and it was announced on the 1st of January 1956. Geography of the Sudan in 1956 was officially the biggest country in Africa and the 10th in the world until 2011, when South Sudan got separated from Sudan due to cultural and political problems, because when the British colonized Sudan, they found out that the north are a mix of Africans and a little bit of Arabs, and they are almost all Muslim, while the south part was all African traditional religions or atheist, so the British colony focused on South Sudan to teach them English and get the Western culture and religion in South Sudan, and before the independence of the Sudan, they sowed discord between the sons of the same homeland, or what is called the Mother Sudan. After South Sudan independence, Sudan became the third largest country in Africa and 17th in the world.
Both Egypt and Sudan are famous for the Nile River, but most of Nile River is in Sudan. The Nile River is not only in Sudan lands more than other countries, but the Nile is created in Sudan by the meeting of the Blue Nile River, which comes from Ethiopian highlands from Lake Tana, and the White Nile River that comes from Lake Victoria in Tanzania and Uganda. Both of these Niles meets at the beautiful city of Khartoum, which is the capital of Sudan, and throughout its land, and then to Egypt. There is also a small river that joins the Nile River called the Atbara River or the Black Nile River. It is so small that is not mentioned.
Sudan ancient civilization, or the Nubian civilization, which existed 5,000 years ago in northern Sudan all the way to Khartoum. It was famous for its pyramids. Of course, they are not as big as Al Giza pyramids in Egypt, but it is more in numbers. There are between 200 to 300 pyramids in Sudan. The pyramids were full hieroglyphics and Nubian drawings, churches, temples, bathrooms for old Nubian kings, or the black pharaohs as some people like to call them, golden and silver dishes, and golden and diamond jewelry. A lot of people think that the black race in the world originally came from in Sudan, and that kind of true. Sudan all over the ages used to use the name black people for their country because it used to be called Kingdom of Kush, and Kush means black people, and it used to be called Ethiopia before Ethiopia that we know today, and Ethiopia means black people, and finally Sudan, which means black people in Arabic too. Fun fact: the oldest complete human skeleton was found in Sudan, called Insan Sinjar, means the human of Sinjar, which is a city in Sudan, and this skeleton formed the Stone Age, ages 160,000 years. Yes, you heard me right, 160,000 years. Many historians think that either Sudan or Egypt are the oldest countries and people in the world. The relationship between the Kingdom of Kush and Egypt was good. Sometimes Egypt gets better and sometimes Kush gets better, and both of the kingdoms colonized each other, and the old Sudan Kingdom of Kush or Maroi ruled Egypt and part of Asia for a whole century by the king Tiraka, who was mentioned in the Bible. After Islam began in Arabic Island, a lot of Arabs immigrate to Sudan and convert all the biggest three Christian empires in Kingdom of Kush to Muslim states and kingdoms, which are Alpha and J, Alpha and Tagali. Sudanese women played a big role in Sudan culture from the Kush empires, when black women used to rule the whole Sudan, and now I am gonna leave with some great Sudanese women.
The 26th of May in 1964, London waits to welcome the President of the Republic of the Sudan, His Excellency General Ibrahim Aboud. The first state visit ever paid to Britain by a President of the Sudan. At Victoria Station, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, with members of the royal family, waits to greet the President, due to arrive by train from Gatwick Airport outside London. Among the distinguished people also gathered to welcome him are the Prime Minister, Sir Alec Douglas-Home, the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Butler, and the Lord Mayor of London. The Queen's husband, His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, had met the President at the airport and accompanied him on the special train to London. The Queen presented her aunts, the Princess Royal and Princess Marina, Duchess of Kent, and her uncle, the Duke of Gloucester. The British and Sudanese people have long been linked in history, and the crowds were eager to greet the leader of this great African nation.
President Kennedy at his side, Washington's official welcoming salute is given the President of the Sudan, Ibrahim Aboud, upon his arrival to begin an 11-day state visit. General Aboud's nation lies strategically between Egypt to the north and the Congo to the south. The Sudan's economic development program and possibly long-term loans from the U.S. will be likely topics of discussion with President Kennedy. Also, most importantly, Syria's break with the UAR. But in the evening at the White House, Syria's high-level diplomacy gives way to the brightness of a state dinner given by the President and Mrs. Kennedy for General Aboud. The Sudanese ambassador to the U.S. and his wife and aides of both leaders complete the formal portrait. After dinner, the guests will watch a performance of Shakespeare.